Now before we get into the video, I do want to say a massive thank you to today's video sponsors, and once again that is jerseyfifa.com. They really do help keep the content on this channel going, and they even sent me a free shirt which you can see on screen here. And as you can see, I got the new Manchester United home kit, and genuinely the kit really is top quality. I highly recommend their product. So make sure to get in a link in the description down below, and now if you use code JerseyFifa at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. You get a great football shirt, and you help support the channel, which I really do appreciate massively. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, and welcome back to the Scouting for Manchester United series. And as you can tell from the thumbnail, the title, and the fact that he's massive up there, today we are talking about Ivan Toney. We're going to talk about some of his strengths, some of his weaknesses, his attitude, his injury history, his value, all of that, and then kind of decide whether or not I think Manchester United should sign him. Now, of course, some of that depends on how his season goes, and it could change by next summer. But we're just going to go through as many different players as possible, talk about their pros and cons, so by next summer we have a rough idea of who United should be signing. So yeah, today is Ivan Toney, the 26-year-old English striker. Stands at about 6 foot tall, plays for Brentford, and recently got his first call up to the England squad. Now, he didn't actually get any game time, but I think that's a sign of the progress that he has been making. Now, at 26 years old, you might argue that he's a bit of a late bloomer almost. Like a lot of English talents we are more aware of around the ages of 20 and 21. So Toney is developing a little bit later, but that's not necessarily an issue. People just develop at different rates. Toney now is really hitting good form and becoming a very complete player. So I want to talk about what he would bring to this Manchester United side. And, of course, he would play up front and be the target man that I think Erik ten Hag really wants. Now, we saw with Ajax's tactics last season, of course, under ten Hag, that Sebastian Haller played up top. He wasn't massively involved in the build-up play, but he could act as a bit of a target man to get out of the press, and then in the box, he was that target to hit with crosses. And what we've seen early in the season is that United don't really have that at the moment. Rashford isn't a target man, he's not a hold-up player, he's not a target in the box. Ronaldo seems to spend a lot of the time not actually getting into the box. He prefers to work in a front two, and also out of the press he doesn't win many headers, and Martial just hasn't been fit. So I do think United need a striker. I think they will be desperate for a striker by the time we get to next summer. So could Ivan Toney be that man? Well, some people will be put off by the fact that his FBref report doesn't look too great, and I think some people will look at that and immediately kind of write him off and say, no, he's not the one, because his pass completion is low, his progressive carries, dribbles completed, progressive passes received, and even his non-penalty goals, his non-penalty XG, his shots, his assists, none of it is particularly high, but I think it's important to apply context to this. In terms of his passing numbers, the way that Brentford play, they don't play possession football. They are very quick, very direct, looking to get the ball forward quickly, which means when Toney does get the ball, one, he's quickly put under pressure because he can be quite isolated at times, being that focal point at the front of the attack, but also there is a demand on him to quickly play the ball forward as quick as possible as Brentford try to transition. So that's why his progressive passes are really high, because he is excellent at dropping in and playing the ball forward, but it's also why his pass completion is slightly lower than we might expect, because he's trying quite difficult passes a lot of the time. So this kind of basic FBref report I don't think is the best way to judge him, because when we talk about players and we talk about stats in particular, it's important to kind of look at the environment they're currently in and then talk about the environment that they might be moving into. The environment at Brentford is very different to how Ten Hag would want Toney's play at Manchester United. Before we continue with the video, I want to talk to you guys about today's video sponsor, anythingfootball.net. You'll be able to find the link to anythingfootball.net in the description down below, and as you scroll through the website you will see how many great football boots they have from a load of different top brands. And honestly, some of these football boots are absolutely stunning. They're genuinely works of art. And I'll put some examples on screen here. You can see just how nice some of these boots are. They really are stunning. But if you want to check them out for yourself, then use the link in the description down below and head to anythingfootball.net. Now back to the video. But one thing that he would want is goals, and Toney does give you that. If we look at his last season in the Championship, he scored 33 goals from 28.69 expected goals, which is a decent return. It's not the most elite level of finishing, but it's sort of a level where we can expect it to be sustained. Now, last season that did dip a little bit, just below his expected goals, but then this season he is again 2 or 3 goals ahead of his expected goals. So in my opinion, he is a good finisher. I do think in the Championship he was perhaps more of a finisher, if you know what I mean. I think since Brentford have moved to the Premier League, he's had to adapt his game a little bit, be more of that hold-up player, be a bit more of a creative player, and less of a goal scorer. Hopefully moving to a big club, whether that's United or another team, would allow him to really unlock his goal scoring potential. But the good thing with that, if we look at the other side of the coin, is that having to adapt his game to the Premier League has meant that Toney has developed into a really well-rounded player. And one thing in particular he's really good at is holding the ball up and being difficult to tackle. And again, I think that is something that United could do with. Now, what we've seen during the opening few months of the season is that a lot of the time when Manchester United are pressed, they like to go quite long and direct. Now, when Ronaldo is up front, this isn't me trying to target Ronaldo or anything like that, but a lot of the time he's a little bit lazy and offside, or another time he just seems to misread it. Now, it isn't helped by the fact that De Gea isn't the best distributor, so hopefully United address that as well. But Ivan Toney is just a much better target man to aim for. Now, he may be 6 foot tall, which isn't actually the tallest in the world, but we've regularly seen him out-jumping players like Virgil van Dijk, one of the best aerial defenders in world football at the moment. So yes, he is only 6 foot, but his spring and his jump in the power allows him to hold the ball up, and that would be a great option for Manchester United. Again, if we go back to Ajax tactics last season, when they couldn't get out of the press, yes, they would persist to a certain extent with players like Lisandro Martinez, but when it wasn't possible, they would go long to Haller, who would hold the ball up, and that was their way to get forward. Toney could certainly do the same, and also get United moving forward by even the fact that he can draw fouls. This is very much backed up when we look at his FBref report in a bit more detail. And if we look at this section here where it says SCA and then FLD in brackets, and also GCA and then FLD in brackets, we can see that he's ranking in the 95th percentile for both of them. What that means is that his shot creating actions from fouls that Toney has drawn, and then goal creating actions from fouls that Toney has drawn. So we can see that Ivan Toney is a very fouled player. We can also see fouls drawn 90th percentile, and also, penalty kicks won in 94th percentile. For me, this highlights a real intelligence about the way that Ivan Toney plays. Now, we see plenty of big strikers in world football, especially at the moment, but just because you are a big player, it doesn't mean you're good at protecting the ball. Ivan Toney isn't actually even the biggest. There are strikers much taller than 6 foot. But Ivan Toney is so good at getting his body in between the ball and the defender, holding the ball up, using his balance really effectively, and he's just very, very difficult to get the ball off. So in situations like this, where perhaps Manchester United can't get out of the press, which is quite often the case, they send the ball long. Ivan Toney is going to win, if he were to join the club, a lot of fouls in situations like this. And what this does is it then allows United to get up the pitch. They can take the free kick and then sustain an attack from there. Or he can just do the hold-up play in general, bring others in, because he is very good with his link play. Speaking of his link play, Ivan Toney is also very, very good in the transition, and I think this is probably the most underrated side of his game. He is an excellent passer, and actually, in terms of, if we compare him to other strikers in the Premier League, I really get Harry Kane vibes. The last 12 months, the way that he's developed overall, Ivan Toney, I'm really getting that sort of vibe, where he loves dropping into these deeper areas, and this is where I'm saying he's become a bit more of a creative striker in the Premier League. Dropping into these areas and then getting runners off the ball, and we know that that is going to suit Manchester United. United look at their best when Anthony Martial plays, and that's because he can do this job, dropping deep and linking the play. Who better to take advantage of that than Marcus Rashford on the left wing? So Ivan Toney would also certainly contribute to United in terms of transitional play, going into Toney's feet and then playing the ball in behind. And Toney and Rashford could have a similar sort of link up to what we've seen from Harry Kane and Heung-min Son in the last few seasons. That would be really interesting and actually really cool to see develop. And actually, I think this is something that mainstream media really need to pick up on. Ivan Toney's all-round linking ability is actually extremely impressive. And it's also something that Gareth Southgate should potentially pick up on for England as well, because he is becoming very all-rounded. Of course, all of that is very important. They're all important parts of the modern-day striker and things that Ten Hag would want. But I think at the end of the day, most people judge a striker on whether or not they can put the ball into the back of the net. And this is actually one of the reasons why I think Ivan Toney could be so well suited to Manchester United. Because, yes, he is happy to drop deep and do this passing work. But also, once he's done that, he gets the ball, he links up with someone. His intention then is to get in the box. Now, again, if we talk about Ronaldo up front, he's often dropping out here because, again, he prefers to be in the front two. If we're talking about Rashford up front, he's often drifting out of the box, and he certainly isn't a target in the box. We kind of saw it at the weekend with the late miss against Newcastle. Ivan Toney wants to do his link play, but then he wants to be in the box because he knows that's where he's going to score the goals. And he is very much a poacher. Importantly, he's also used to playing as a solo striker a lot. He has done it in the front two before, but also very comfortable as the solo striker. But also his movement in the box is something that is extremely underrated. And again, I think it's intelligence. He's a very intelligent footballer. His footballing IQ is very, very high. He's always getting in front of defenders, pinning defenders exactly where he wants them. His all-round awareness is just very impressive. And from a tactical point of view, I think he is very suited to the way that Erik ten Hag wants to play. For that reason, I think he could be very suited to this Manchester United team. Probably my question is over actual pure quality. Because a player can fit stylistically, but it's just actually, yes, they're the right type of player, but are they actually purely good enough? For example, let's look at the teams that United want to try and compete with. Is Ivan Toney as good as Erling Haaland? Obviously not. Is he as good as Benzema? No. Is he as good as Lewandowski? No. Harry Kane? No. So that's kind of where my sticking point is a little bit. I think, like I said, stylistically and tactically, I think there's a lot of reasons that this could work. Because he's an excellent hold-up striker, he's a good link-up striker, his passing in terms of playing other players through is very impressive, and also he's great in the box, he scores a lot of goals. My question would be pure quality and kind of his ceiling, his level as a footballer. The style is right, it's just actually how good is he? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. He of course has other things as well, and one thing I can't go through this video without talking about is his penalties. His penalties are an absolute joke, and it kind of highlights his composure as a player. We see his penalties, he takes such a short run-up, he was talking about it at the weekend, waits for the keeper to move and just puts it the other way. I think he's missed one penalty in his whole career, and it's not necessarily the most important metric in the world. United do have other players that can take penalties, Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, players like that. But I think, for me, it's the manner in which he takes them. It's this constant composure. It's this constant calmness. I think that is what he brings. He just looks like a very established number 9, a true number 9. And I really like that. In terms of his attitude, I haven't really been able to find too much in terms of like work rate and things like that. We do know he's had some issues on social media in terms of he said something funny about Brentford like last year. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was something along the lines of F Brentford, he said in a video on Twitter, which isn't the smartest thing to do, so I don't like that side so much. But I do think he is quite an ambitious individual. He had the chance to play for Jamaica, which, no disrespect, but realistically he would have been a guaranteed starter, but he turned that down and went, no, I want to fight for this England spot, even though Harry Kane's in the way. So I think that shows a confidence in his own ability, which is an excellent thing to see. Also, in terms of his injury record, pretty darn decent. He missed 8 games back in the 2015-2016 season. 60 days, 2 months, 8 games, which, quite a long-term injury, ankle injury, but those things do happen in sport. When we look at the injuries, it's more a case of we're looking for recurring injuries, and more so muscular injuries. If a player is getting a lot of hamstring injuries, that can be a problem, especially moving to a club where you do play more football matches over the season. So in terms of injury, there's no problem. And in terms of value, I think the talk is about £40 million. That is market value on the transfer market website. That was the talks coming out last summer that is what they wanted. So again, it's a lot of money, but I don't even know what a lot of money is now in football, because the fees we see are absolutely insane. I think 40 million is about right. I think that's where he's at. So in terms of value, I think is good. His injury history is good. Attitude, I'm not so sure about certain things on social media, but that doesn't massively affect it too much. I do think he's quite ambitious. He's an excellent goal scorer. His hold-up play is good. His link play is good. He's good in transition, and he is a box striker. I do think he ticks a lot of the boxes for what United need. For that reason, I'm going to give him a B rating as a signing overall. Now, obviously pretty much everything I've said is positive, so you might think I would say A, but I just think actually pure quality, pure ceiling level of what he can make it to as a footballer isn't as high as some of the other strikers out there. But apart from that, I think it would be a really good signing for United to make, and I would be very surprised if he's not on the list. I think he will be, even perhaps for January. I'm sure United will be looking at him, because his start to this season has been brilliant. He was good last year, he was good in the Championship. He's been doing it for several seasons now. Hopefully he gets rewarded with a place in the England squad, because that could be important, especially if they go to penalties. He could certainly play a big role. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. It's a B rating for me. I think United should really consider this. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are there any negatives about him which I've missed? Any huge positives to his game which I haven't really touched on? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.